Hello, this is Nick, the Dark Yogi, and welcome to Kisma and the Dark Yogi, brought to you by SourceMovement.com. We're here for people who want to be radically authentic and courageously vulnerable. So whether you're a yoga teacher, an entrepreneur, or a leader building a tribe, we're here to get your energy and your mindset positioned for success. No more stress, no more lack of energy. It's time to lead with your full potential. Our intention is to leave the world a better place than we found it and inspire you to do the same. So hey, if this message in our podcast resonates with you and you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to Kisma and the Dark Yogi on iTunes. While you're there, give us a rating, let us know what you think, and if you have somebody in your life that would enjoy this conversation, please go ahead and share it with them as well. If you want more information about the movement, all you have to do is go to sourcemovement.com. But for now, let's get the show started. I hope you enjoy this episode of Kisma and the Dark Yogi. Welcome to Kisma and the Dark Yogi. We are so excited to have Heather and Mark Titus, founders of the Sedona Yoga Festival, here today, and really just having an opportunity to have a dialogue about an amazing event that they put on every year, and broader than that, how yoga plays a role in that, and how yoga plays a role in their lives. So we are so excited to have you both on, and I just want to give a really heartfelt welcome. Thank you for being here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We're really happy to be here.
So I just really kind of wanted to start at the beginning, and talk a little bit about how did you get into yoga? Where did all of this, begin for you? How did you start practicing yoga? Where did this originally begin for you?
Let's see. For me, I think I came to yoga for stress relief initially. And as it does, it just did its work on me over time. And I found the deeper meaning of the practice as time went on. Honestly, I was practicing martial arts and always had a mind-body-spirit connection in my physical practices. And one day I was gifted the opportunity to discover that I would, even under the worst of circumstances, never strike another human being. And in that pause, I heard the memory of my first Shavasana and just kind of let the martial arts go, which are beautiful mind-body practices on their own, and moved into the science of yoga.
It's funny. That's my first experience in that, too, was through Taekwondo. When I was a kid, my folks set me up with Taekwondo lessons, and there was something, I got something out of it that was definitely beyond, combat skills. There was just something there that was really about connecting with myself in a deeper way. It's funny. I had no idea that you were that you had that background.
I still have a deep love for Bruce Lee and his philosophical
brilliant.
meanderings.
Bruce Lee is so brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea until later. I just thought they were neat kung fu movies at the time, when I was a kid. What about you, Mark?
Well, interesting you'd bring up Bruce Lee, both of you. I actually, I had a fairly strong mind, body, spirit connection as well. The Church of Nature, those kinds of things. Had some introductions and some study with Tai Chi early on, or kind of midpoint on for stress relief in a fast-paced kind of corporate environment. And then I actually, literally broke my back. And not from a physical injury standpoint, but from stress and the job and what have you. And so I spent about 6 months in bed, back, not being able to do much of anything, in absolute agony. And finally, the doctors said, you might never walk again without a cane, and you need to have surgery and all of that Western medicine nonsense. And I remember laying in the and by the way, it was funny because my Tai Chi teacher, I was studying and practicing, Tai Chi, the supreme ultimate, right? So he kept saying to me, well, you should really go to a yoga class. You should really go to a yoga class. That'll help with your, flexibility and such. And he meant way more than just my physical flexibility. And I was like, well, there was so much ego then that it was like, well, I'm practicing this supreme ultimate. What do I need yoga for? And so there I found myself, later on, I found myself completely broken. And I was channel hopping at 3 o'clock in the morning, and Steve Ross, Maha Yoga, Steve Ross, came in on the TV with his show Inhale with Steve Ross. And I watched for an hour in just complete rapture that these bodies moving in these postures and these poses, and this man with this such a brilliant light. And while I was laying in bed for those months, I was actually reading Eastern philosophy, a lot of it, and I read a lot of Bruce Lee's philosophy and writings. And so here I am looking at these yoga asanas, what I came to find out later, and I just said, I can do that. My body is going to be able to do that again. And that day I got out of bed and I walked to the end of the street, the first time I'd had several weeks. Later that I found an introductory yoga class, and I started my practice. And that's what did it. 9 months later, I was back on the fire line, fighting fire with 20 somethings. And I healed myself with the asana and the meditation and a massive life.
Wow. That is so beautiful. That is such a beautiful story. I want to share something. You brought up Steve Ross, Kisma here, by the way. When I was in the orchestra in Hong Kong, I started doing yoga there, and it was a very interesting experience. But I picked up Steve Ross's book, Happy Yoga, and I read it, and I was like, I want that, because the world of a classical musician can be one of extreme neuroses and unhappiness. And I was surrounded by unhappy people. And as our listeners may or may not know, we have had the extreme joy of meeting Heather and Mark at the Sedona Yoga Festival this past February. And I was able to go up to Steve Ross because he was one of your main teachers there. I mean, he's so great. And I said, you're the reason that I'm here today. And he was blown away. He couldn't believe it. I'm like, I read your book, and that's why I started practicing yoga. So I love that. I have a quick question. Do the two of you remember your first yoga class that you took together?
Well, first, wait a minute. I just thought that we might just spend the whole hour waxing eloquent about Steve Ross.
We'll send it on over to him.
We could easily do that.
Yeah, he wouldn't mind. As long as we're being happy.
That we are.
Playing some reggae.
Well, interestingly enough, okay, so the first time Mark and I practiced yoga, asana together, was when I walked into his class. So I had just moved to Sedona and was seeking places to teach. And when I arrived at this particular studio venue, they said, here's a week. Come in and check out all of our classes and see what you think, and we'll talk after that. So I walked into Mark's class.
And it was really a powerful experience, because here someone, I didn't know Heather was a teacher at this time. I didn't know she was, looking to fill a teaching position at the spa. But there was something there, and I had this immediate, like, wait a minute, you're a teacher. This is a student. And, that's not appropriate. And so the follow-up of the story is quite intriguing, and we'll have to go there.
We have to go there.
For the listeners.
How can we not?
For the listeners. But Heather said something to me, because I she walked up and said, "Hi, I'm Heather." And I said, "Hi, I'm Mark," or something along those lines. And I said,
nothing too complicated.
I said, are you new to yoga? And you said, no, actually, how did you say that? I want to be.
I think Mark was having everyone move their mats around.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
I didn't know where my mat went. And he moved his and sort of jokingly, oh, I said, no, I want to be where you are.
That's what she said. She said, no, I want
to be where you are.
I want to be where you are. And I said, okay. And I picked up my mat and I put it down where she was about to put her mat. And I said, well, why don't you teach the class and I'll stay out here. And so there was that little happy banter. And that was then that was the time that I realized that she said, well, I'm here to, think about teaching at the Hilton. I was like, a little part of me breathed a sigh of relief, but another part of me said, well, wait a minute, Mark, this is still your class and she's here. So I spent the next, 24, 48 hours having this deep ethical dilemma within me, because I had, in some ways, I felt in that moment that I looked into Heather's eyes that I had found something that I'd been looking for my entire existence. And at the same time, I had this ethical experience of like, well, wait a minute, she's in your class, man. It's not appropriate. And so 48 hours into it, the next class comes around. I had come to the conclusion that I was just going to let God guide me in whatever happened. And if she was there, great. And if she wasn't there, so be it. And but if she was there, that I was going to maybe explore a little deeper conversation. And so she was there. And I had this deeper conversation that I wanted to explore with her. And I sort of tapped her on the shoulder and said, hey, you're back.
No. He said, so you want to be a teacher?
Oh, right. So you want to be a teacher. And, well, you can imagine the consternation on Heather's experience, because she turned around with this really funny look on her face and pursed lips and held up a sign that said, in silence.
Ooh.
So of course, I'm spending the next 48 hours before we see each other again. And all I keep hearing in my head is, well, I am a teacher. It was really quite something. The immediate recognition was there. And both of us it was a really funny dance. So, yeah.
So the third time, and we'll just close it out so everybody gets the gist of it. The third time, I find out later, Heather's having a similar dialogue. I'm having a similar dialogue. I basically, the next 48 hours, go through and say, all right, God, if you bring her back one more time, it's in your hands. I completely released anything, but yet there was still this ethical dilemma going on. And so she was there. We did talk briefly, and she told me at the end, basically, that her week's pass was up. She wasn't in silence. The class before, she was on a 48-hour silent meditation. We basically said, okay, see you later. And she left and I left. And I was like, wow, what just happened? And I spent the next week to 10 days kind of pining a little bit, because I really did feel like there was something missed, And then about 10 days later, maybe it was 2 weeks later, I walked into a coffee shop, and lo and behold, she was there. And so we started to court each other, and the rest, as they say, right, is history.
Well, and I love this story. I love that you had those moments of the ethical responsibility, of a yoga teacher. But here's what I've seen with you. Both of you are such insightful, intuitive, divine humans, right? So I'm sure there was that from one higher self calling to another higher self. And however it had to play out, luckily it did, because where I'm getting with this is by your union, of coming together with both of you being so wise and so purposeful, you birthed the Sedona Yoga Festival. And we, as the part of the yoga community, and are so grateful that it's there, because it is, I feel, really filling the void of what other festivals out there are creating. I hear you say time and time again, yoga is not just the asana. It's not just the pose. It's not just the flow. Like, yoga is everything. So if you could just share with us, how did it begin? Where was the seed? Where was the thought? And a big thanks to both of you for having that diligence and commitment to have it come to such successful fruition.
Well, let me first share with you that Mark birthed the yoga festival before we met. And during that courtship period, we really engaged on a very much in the moment, in the now level of conversation. But there was one time that Mark posed the question, so what did you used to do? Now, I mentioned I came to yoga because of a stressful life experience. Well, I had been a production manager and someone who'd started a couple of festivals of my own, one of which is still going to this day. And so I just happened to mention, I produce events and run festivals, start festivals, build community. And I recall so vividly his left eyebrow just shooting up almost to his hairline. And I thought, don't ask him what that's all about. And because I had come to call myself a retired production manager. I'm a yoga teacher now. I meditate, I'm quiet, I hike in Sedona. All is peaceful. So I'll let Mark share his story of how the yoga festival vision came to be. But we met long before not too long before the first one. And the day came where he said, I really need your help. I said, no, I don't do that anymore. But after some soul searching around it, I realized that, at least for me, it felt as though everything I had done in my life, including finding a passion for yoga, had led to this experience. And I recognized in myself that, if Mark hadn't done it, I probably would have. I seem to have an unstoppable drive to bring people together. And so I'm so grateful to have been called into it and bring all the little bits and pieces of training and skills I've carried to this endeavor and to bring it to life together. And I'm sure you'd love to hear how Mark came to the vision itself.
Yeah, I would. I just want to interject really quickly, though, and just, isn't that one of the most brilliant moments when you realize that all that other stuff, it wasn't just wasted time or time trying to figure out like what I was really going to do or something like that, but that it actually played a role in preparing. And I think this is happening for everybody all the time. I think not everybody has the gift of being able to put those pieces together and actually see how it all works in their greater life mission. So I just think that's awesome.
Very adept at pointing that out, Nick. Really so powerful, because what I'm noticing as I think that you and Kisma have as well, is that people are waking up, realizing that what they've been doing, while perhaps successful, isn't or hasn't fulfilled. And then all of a sudden, there's, you hear this, enlightenment and spiritual growth is far from a fun experience. It's a breaking down of everything. It's a shattering of everything that's held you back, or that's suppressed you, or what have you. So it's by no means fun at times, to find the truth and to strip away all the illusion. But at the same time, as the illusion strips away, something really profound is left, and that is your skill sets that allowed you to survive in a crazy society. Then now those skill sets are there. You see them. They then can be applied to something that is really good, and really, really expansive and really there to help evolve consciousness. That's what happened to me. From what I hear Heather say, and again, I won't speak for her, but what I hear her say is that it's something that is similar, her experience. I imagine it's similar for the two of you. What happened with me is that I had that old life, and I chose to walk away from it and leave a 20-year career and houses and cars and trucks and boats and the American dream, if you will. And because I wasn't happy, I too read Steve Ross's book and went with the WTF. I'm not this happy being that he says we're supposed to be unless I'm practicing yoga. and then I am, then I really do and really recognize I'm happy. So I came to Sedona in 2007, walked away from everything, and I came here to become a yoga teacher and deepen my practices. And after getting here 2007, 2008, everybody was doing a lot of things, but that there was nothing really cohesive about it. And I kept asking, well, why isn't there an event? I kept saying, this was like in 2009. And I remember just waking up one day and going, there needs to be an event here. And by golly, I'm going to do it, Well, it took about 4 more years to actually clear out the karma and clear out the crap to get me to a place where I could do it. But sure enough, in 2013, the early parts of it, Spirit, Sedona herself, Yogananda, a number of my etheric teachers basically put me in a place that said, it's time to found that event. And interestingly enough, within 30 minutes of that message coming in, a friend of mine who was the Flagstaff Yoga Festival founder and director texted me and said, hey, I think you should have, out of the blue, she does this. She says, hey, I've been sitting on the .com, SedonaYogaFestival.com for a couple years now. And she says, I think you should have it. And I'm like, oh, because, you can't have an online community without a URL. And so now all of a sudden, 30 minutes after getting the message to create the event, I have the URL. I have no idea how that happened. And so, yeah, I mean, really I found some people to help move it forward. At the beginning stages, we started as an online event, promoting an online event. We started with literally nothing. And I mean that very literally. And, about 8 months into it, it was October that I met Heather, and the event was coming up, and some things hadn't fallen into place just yet, and I was like, I really need some help. Like, I remember saying to myself, I really need some help, and so when I met Heather, I kind of lost myself in the courtship, and then when she said, well, I'm a retired production manager and I've founded festivals and run festivals my entire career. And I literally like had to keep my tongue bit because I didn't want to just pounce, I was like, I need help because I did. And I will say from that moment forward, I did keep keep it all kind of together for a few more days. And then I finally did say, Heather, I really need you. She looked at me and she's like, what do you mean? And I said to her, well, we've got this event, the Sedona Yoga Festival, coming up here in about 2 months, and I really need some help.
Well,
you didn't want to freak her out too much right off the bat.
Right. It sounds like you managed yourself really well. Congratulations.
So the without Heather that first year, there wouldn't be a Sedona Yoga Festival. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, definitively say that. She carried us through some of the shortfalls that we had, unbeknownst to the original production team, didn't really quite figure out because none of us really knew how to run an event. And she came in, and in 2 months, she produced that event. And from that point forward, we, of course, we
never stopped.
Yeah, we never stopped. And so,
tell me, just if possible. Because our first trip to Sedona was during this past festival. And what is the magic? If you could say, 5 words or less, what is the magic of Sedona that draws people there for their soul? And if it's more than 5 words, that's okay. I guess I'm looking for, what is it? Is it possible to just speak about it in a few words, or is there such depth to it that it's a whole nother podcast?
Oh yeah, it can be a whole nother podcast. But in this case, I would say sacred,
okay,
powerful, ancient wisdom, and really like a lot of people experience kind of a kick in the butt, sometimes a kick in the face.
Yeah.
Sometimes just somehow, some would say it's the vibration. Some would say there's forces at work here, but it seems like your stuff just bubbles up really, really fast, and you kind of have to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was, hearing love, energy, vortex, Sedona herself, and healing and transformation. Those were the words that were coming forward, just extemporaneous, like coming in through the ethers. And I want to emphasize, I really do want to emphasize Sedona herself, because we recognize that Sedona herself is watching over the town and the people here and the people that come and the visitors, and she's guiding us, and she's guided me personally, and very effectively at times. And so there's something about that. And when you see a statue of her, there is a statue, a little maquette of her in the Sedona room at Creative Life Center. And when you look into those eyes, you just see something deeper. Like, she was definitely beyond her time, and she still imbues this landscape with her divinity. So there is that, and so the next time you're here, you'll have to check out what I mean by that.
Completely, and it's such a beautiful part of the yoga festival. Like, it's an amazing, you draw really amazing presenters and students and participants. The fact that all of this is happening in Sedona, for anybody that is thinking about attending the festival and maybe you've not been to Sedona, it will enhance it all. It just makes it all such a very, very special experience.
Well, even on a more standard and accessible level, if you will, it's an incredibly beautiful place. Everywhere you turn, you're surrounded by beauty. It smells beautiful. It's just been recognized as the 8th dark sky community in the world, and you can see all the stars. It's incredibly quiet. People wonder why we go to bed so early here, but why would you want to, it's dark, it's quiet, it's beautiful, it's peaceful. There are hundreds and hundreds of trails. So you can connect with nature here so easily. It's very, very easy to get to the land. There's a trailhead right at the end of our street. We don't have to get in the car, and 5-minute walk, and we're on just completely immersed in the natural landscape. So Sedona is incredibly special that way as well. It's a very small community, and the people who live here welcome visitors. You really couldn't live here if you didn't welcome visitors, because we have a lot of visitors. And so there's a lot of love for the people passing through, and a lot of holding space for. And it seems that, the people who are focused on an internal exploration, there's a lot of practitioners here of healing, of yoga, of meditation, of all sorts of, you can have psychic readings, you can have your aura photo taken, you can, float in a sensory deprivation or get amazing massages. We have so many amazing massage practitioners. So it's a really special place. Even if you don't believe all the woo-woo, you might get here and just find out what it is for you, what resonates with you for you, because people really do report widely and without debate that it's one of the most special places in the world to visit.
And there's, there is a thriving yoga community here. There's many teachers, many different practices and perspectives. And there's only a few yoga studios actually in town, but there's so many teachers and so many places that are offering yoga. And so, one of our offshoots that we've put together to facilitate the 4.5 million plus visitors a year that come through our small community can, go one-stop shop, and every single class is listed. And some days there are 20 classes, yoga classes, a day offered here in Sedona. So, what we're trying to do with our efforts and our energy is really just, meet the visiting population to the existing yoga teacher population, and get them together, because we know that there's a lot of people going through this town that do practice yoga, and we just want to help. We just want to help marry the energies, not marry them, but bring them together.
Love it.
So.
Yeah. Just kind of circling back, it's something that I've heard both of you mention in different ways, is the role of nature in your spiritual practice. I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit more about that. Like, how does it inform or influence your spiritual practice to be a part of nature, to spend time in nature, and to have that be a part of your practice?
Well, it's interesting that you would ask that, because as the business of producing a festival took us over, we found less and less time and opportunity to do that. And I think that there's a kind of a bit of a boon to that vein, if you will, because we are right in it. Like, we live in this tiny little community, and as Heather said, there's a trailhead a 2-minute walk from our house, and a quarter of a mile away are the monolithic red rocks. So we're in the landscape as we drive to meetings, as we walk to meetings, as we go to teach our classes, as we do our business. So that's really cool. The flip side of that is that when we do have those moments of time that we can create, it's very easy to get there, like right now, like boom. If we say, hey, we've got an hour and a half because we got an hour and a half between meetings or whatever it might be, we can be in the landscape, not on the land, but yes, on the land, but in the landscape within minutes. And that's really nice. I
love that. And it's as you speak about nature, as you speak about your work, it's all very spiritual. As we were talking earlier, Mark, you said yoga is everything. And if both of you could speak about why your spiritual practice is so important or so necessary. I mean, we get it on the surface layer as yogis. We know it's part of it, but both of you have a true depth of your practice and understanding. And I have the feeling it's just like it wouldn't be possible without it, to have the kind of life that you have without your spiritual practice.
Well, I'll share that the reason I left production before, I think, may have had something to do with not having a spiritual practice. It was worldly. Everything was worldly. It was, is it done or isn't it done? What's the tangible result? There's nothing more to anything. Believe me, there were enough experiences in my life to have me literally, down on my knees asking if there's more, which led me, to deepen my practice. And now, I'm so blessed and honored to be bringing what I discovered in my practice to a larger audience through my work. But to speak to whatever kind of work I might be doing, it's joyful, and either it's innate in your knowing as you look around you at the natural world, or as you see your breath, or you see the innate intelligence of life itself, as Mark Whitwell would say, through the eyes of a baby, or things that make it easier to remind us. There can't really be any stress in action or tension in life, and the practice itself helps reveal that. As Mark touched on it earlier, we are blocked from seeing our own true nature of peace and joy and love through conditioning, habit, karma, whatnot, um, and belief systems that really need to be disassembled. And these practices of yoga and meditation are absolutely really the most advanced tools we have on the planet to being able to discover our own joyful nature, our own true connection to everyone else and the life around us. And without it, what a bleak experience, really.
True. Thank you. Thank you. Mark, what about you?
Well, I think that I've had a pretty wild ride in the let's say before yoga, and a pretty wild ride after yoga. And we're all having a human experience. And one of the things that I realized a while ago is that I may come across as being really happy and joyous and got it all together and spiritually sound and all of this. But I'm a human being. And so, human beings, we are actually imperfect beings. And I think that's my spiritual practice has really actually gotten me to that place of understanding. And for me in particular, the stresses of the business and the world of this my previous profession of being a wildland firefighter, and my experience with PTSD, and my experience with trauma, and my experience with the stresses of the last several years of growing an event to the size that we did in the time span. Like, I fell down. I'll just admit it. I fell down hard. And it was and is my spiritual practice that allowed me to see, even when I was on my knees and at the end of my literal rope, depressed, insecure, anxiety out the ears, nose, mouth, every orifice of my being, and it did come to a place where I was actually not able to function prior to the festival last year. I will say that, and freely say that. Like, there's no shame in it. I'm a human being, and I fell down. And I come to find out that even that gave me a message. Even that provided me with, as Bhavaram would say, an education, so that I can provide service to a segment of the population who has fallen down and didn't know it and don't know it. And so I spent some time in the hospital and under supervision, and I came out of that experience deeper in my practice, not because I went back to my practice, but something unfolded for me that was always there, as Steve Ross would say, right? It's always there. But something relaxed within me when I was able to relax in my circumstances. And then all of a sudden, like, okay, that all happened for a reason. And I'm supposed to do something with that. And so now, I wake up every day in a completely different state. I'm grateful and joyous to have actually felt what it was like to be at rock bottom, felt what it was like to, contemplate, what does it mean to end it all? I've felt that. I've thought those thoughts. I've had those experiences. And so I'm truly blessed. And without a spiritual practice, I would probably sit here and be saying, like, that sucked. But no, it was a part of my evolution and my growth. And I'm a better human being for it. And I'm going to be I'm better positioned more humbled and humiliated by the experience in that positive way, to be able to say honestly to somebody, I know how you feel, and there is a way out.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. It's such an inspiration to people around you and those listening to know that there is this inward healing and practice of yoga, and yoga meaning so many things to all of us. That is the healing and really the height of the healing arts, and we can get back up. And it is, you're right, like to understand that as human beings we are imperfect is really a powerful understanding.
It really is. I mean, for me anyway, it's just that constant reminder. And I think one of our teachers just recently, we were talking with about, when we're in it, it's like the fear of like it's gonna last forever, and then we try to change, or get out of it, or when it's so great, when everything's so great, and then we think it's going to change, that's going to change. And so we you grasp again to hold on to it and keep it all the same. And we wind up back in the world trying to manipulate our circumstances to be to our liking. And at the end of the day, it's like, isn't it really just like, when's the part where we're just really fully accepting and appreciating of who we are as a human being, and the opportunities that we have that are presented through these challenges, to just look at ourselves from a new perspective and try to see one more way the light inside. It's such a trip to me. What's it like? What's it like working together? I mean, we're husband and wife and running a business ourselves, and I'll just own, that it's not always the easiest thing. It's an intense relationship with so many different facets that I think just aren't there in regular business relationships. Like, how does that go for you guys?
Well, I'll start with a very short story, because, again, well, I fell down, right? So like I had to completely give over into the notion that I was unable to function in a business context for several months. And Heather jumped in and ran with it, and managed our lives while I was trying to figure out just what the heck was wrong with me. So there's that aspect of it, that, there's that amazing, deep compassion and love for your partner and your mate. And then when you're in business together, there's that baby, if you will, that, because we consider the festival to a certain extent a child. It's an infant, it's growing. So thankfully there's that aspect of the partnership, that intimacy that's there. It's challenging. I mean, it was really hard for both of us. But I will say, on another note, what really is fascinating about working together is that it's allowed me to really have a deeper understanding of me in watching my closest mirror in our business endeavors. It's really allowed me to have a deeper understanding of me and really uncover the things that only my spouse would be able to uncover, and that makes it incredibly challenging at times, because I'm looking at some of the most hidden things, and some of the darker shadows that I wasn't aware of, but I get to see through the mirror of my beloved. And so it's not for the faint of heart, I have to say that, because, and I'll say that very personally, because I've had to look at some pretty dark shit, and process through it in order to come and be able to show up, as a in an interdependent partnership with my spouse, my beloved, my best friend, and my business partner.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's not like working at the corporation where you go home. You can go home at the end of the day, and it's it's just like, oh, I'll just go home and I'll toss back a few martinis and everything will be okay. And I'll hit it fresh tomorrow. You're in it. You're constantly in it, and I can't agree more. Of like it brings up those things for me that I would just, not only would I not want to look at outside of that, but things that I would very easily just absolutely ignore and bypass. But when you're in it, like in a situation like this, if not for the faint of heart, couldn't. I'm pretty sure I've used those exact words. Because there's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide, and that's the kind of the beauty of it. Like, you are all in, and that's really what a partnership I really feel should be. So
That's great.
In fact, we said that to one another at the earliest stages. Are you all in?
I don't know that we actually. We probably should have asked that question. I don't know that we actually did. What about you, Heather? How's that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Having a spiritual practice of my own, I was looking for a partner in that. When we found each other, that's what I could see. That would be. I can't imagine a life with something less than that. The going to work, and I mean, I guess if that was the life, just going to work without a spiritual practice in your relationship or your work life, then maybe the martinis are appropriate, of which you speak. But no, it's beautiful, and like you said, there's no escaping it, because the mirror is so profound. We're really diving deep. Like, how much can we do and accomplish of the inspirations that flow through, and how are we going to do it, and who's going to do it, and just all those things. It's always, so any tendencies, it's like shining a bright light on them. It's probably a shortcut of some sort.
Oh, it's so great. It's so great. Well, I know it's just so awesome to have both of you on the show. I want to ask before we close up, I know for me, the yoga festival has, what it shows me, the Sedona Yoga Festival, is this willingness to really present to people what yoga is on so many levels. I'd love to hear from you. What's your 10-year vision or 2-year vision or whatever it is, like your real truth for the festival?
I'm gonna laugh because I was just thinking about that question hit me out of left field, even though I kind of knew you were gonna ask it, because I really haven't looked at that far out. I really haven't. I've watched this event evolve constantly and consistently evolve beyond anything that I've ever dreamed of, actually. And I dreamed about it, and it came to me in a vision, and it's become far more than I ever imagined it could be. And so, there's this aspect of just letting it continue to unfold. And what I will say is that I used to, when it was really stressful and when we were really, in that place of like, are we going to make it through this experience? Are we going to actually make it through another event? I used to tell the team and anybody who would listen, actually, because I was really needing to hear it myself. I used to say, the founders of the Sedona International Film Festival, which is in its 21st year here in Sedona, I said, the founders of that film festival, they were sitting around the table 20 some years ago, just like we are, twiddling their thumbs, wondering if they're going to make any money, wondering if they're going to be able to pay their bills, wondering if they're going to be able to pay their film costs, wondering if they're, anybody's going to come or buy a ticket, all the things that we've wondered, and now I say 20 years after that, here's this amazing, thriving, vibrant fixture, if you will, in Sedona. Every spring, the Sedona Film Festival is here. I said, that's going to be us. there will be a 10th annual. There will be a 20th annual. And I've said that numerous times, Nick, Kisma, I've said that numerous times to myself and to others. But honestly, I've never looked at what that is going to look like.
You're staying present to the present, I believe, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. There's different ways to look at it. Like some people really need that to grab onto. And I think for other people, I think it can be really limiting. Like the human imagination then becomes a limiting factor in that it wouldn't be able to become what it can be if we decide ahead of time. It's like it ruins that process of evolution for it, which I think is so cool. You know, other than the fact that, heck yeah, we're going to be here 10 years and 20 years from now, you know, and it'll be something amazing that we couldn't even imagine from this point. Right. That's really the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just a quick interjection. You know, I had this, you know, fall down experience and had to step away for about 4 months. And part of my like spiritual understanding of that experience was that, you know, I was actually starting to be a little bit too controlling on it, you know, and as the one, you know, who kind of birthed it, as Heather said, and then brought in, Heather and I brought it together and it became ours. And, you know, there was a time when I was kind of getting a little bit like, hey, no, it has to be this way, you know, and I think that's part of it. It's like I had to step away from it, and God gave me a great opportunity to do so, to heal some other things that were going on with me. And what I realized after that, and I came to this year's event, I went, wow, it is so much bigger than any one person that's involved in the creation of each event that I really just did step back, completely step it become what it's going to become. And that was a key learning for me.
Thank you. I love it. Well, Heather and Mark Titus, thank you so much. I want to direct our listeners to SedonaYogaFestival.com for any time of the year to check out the page and look at what's happening and the amazing teachings and gifts, and to certainly go. Like, what are the dates for the next March in 2016?
Well, come on.
I know. We'll be there.
You guys are going to be there.
We sort of mapped out all
we
of
just
March.
know we'll be there.
Put this in your calendar. Okay, I'm not going to tell you again. It's March 10th to 13th, 2016.
Okay.
Got that?
Got it. 10th through 13th.
Okay. We're really excited that you're coming back, and we're really grateful that we get to do this for the fourth year. And of course, we'll have some pre and post conferences again, and we will be doing a training yoga for first responders, something close to Mark's heart that he touched on a little bit here that we helped create with our partner, Give Back Yoga Foundation. So this year's training, amazing. 60 teachers have gone out into the world, and they are so active. There are now yoga classes at fire departments and police departments and all over the country. It's really blossoming, and we're grateful to support that, and we're going to continue to refine, you know, what we do offer at the yoga festival, and continue to bring people together and you know, assist them in finding their passion, their purpose, and waking up to the truth of their lives, and then bringing it back out into the world.
I sense we'll be hopping on again to do a specific show about yoga for first responders, because that's something that's going to impact so many lives out there. So
that would be wonderful.
We'll look forward for a date on that.
Just wonderful.
So what we got about 3 or 4 podcasts that will be.
Yeah.
We're gonna have one about Sedona.
Well, I vote for the Yoga for First Responders next.
Yeah.
It is a project that and an energy that's near and dear to my heart, for a lot of reasons.
Okay.
But I will say, Kisma, that Steve Ross has agreed to come back,
Awesome.
so we'll be able to experience that happiness again.
Okay. Well, we're super excited to be a part of it all. So just excited. Sedona Yoga Festival, everyone. This is a gift to the yoga community worldwide, not just in Arizona or in our country, but really energetically and starting to really gain some international steam. So thank you both so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, part of the mission of Source Movement Yoga is to have conversations exactly like this and to just really talk about what makes us tick and the great things that we're here to do in this world. So I just can't thank you enough for showing up and for sharing so honestly and for being a part of this. Like this, thank you.
Many blessings.
Thank you. It's beautiful what you're doing, and we're honored to be a part.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Sedona Yoga Festival, everybody.
Yes.
And thank you, Mark and Heather, and have a fantastic day. Namaste.
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 Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Kisma and the Dark Yogi. We hope that you enjoyed it. If you've got somebody in your life that you think would really like this show, go ahead and share it with them. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Stitcher and SoundCloud as well. Look for Kisma and the Dark Yogi. We'd love to hear from you, so please give us a rating and a review. That would really help us in getting the message out there, and we'd greatly appreciate it. If you have questions or would like to hear us talk about something on the show, please drop us a line at podcast@sourcemovement.com. That's podcast@sourcemovement.com. Until the next time, namaste.